While the Pixel 7 Pro offers some minor refinements over the Pixel 6 Pro, we have a video comparing those two, go check that out down in the description below. The Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7 are even further separated with important changes that make for a more enticing product. Thinking of switching? Well, here's everything you need to know. Realistically, the changes on paper seem relatively minor between the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7, but in the hand and when side by side, you can instantly spot that the Pixel 7 offers some important refinements over its predecessor. It's not clear why Google has shaved the dimensions of the Pixel 7, but it pushes it closer to the Pixel 6a in terms of pocketability and helps create more separation between the Pro model and the regular series devices for 2022 and mid-2023. A 6.3-inch display comes standard on the Pixel 7, while last year's Pixel 6, as you may know, has a 6.4-inch screen. Both of these are flat and they are very similar in terms of overall fidelity at 1080p, but because the Pixel 7 is marginally smaller, it has a higher 416 ppi versus the 411 ppi you'll find on the Pixel 6 series. The maximum brightnesses are also substantially upgraded, with a peak brightness now set at 1400 nits on the 2022 flagship compared to the Pixel 6's 800 nit peak brightness level. So in direct sunlight, you should see this screen a little bit better on the Pixel 7 versus the Pixel 6. As I mentioned, both displays are capped at 1080p and are flat. They also run at that maximum 90Hz refresh rate. However, because of the matte black side rails of the Pixel 6, it actually visually appears to have larger bezels. The truth is that the bezels on most sides are not drastically different on these Duo here. At the bottom though, the chin is the same size on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7, but the smaller forehead on the Pixel 7 offers an explanation as to why that 0.1-inch display decrease has been added, or at least decreased here on the Pixel 7 device. It's not just a screen though. To accommodate these size changes, a number of other areas have been tweaked and tuned as a result of the shaved dimensions. You'll notice that the camera bar alignment is actually better this year with the Pixel 7 Pro, or the Pro version. This camera section is now further down. It's also made from aluminium rather than glass and fuses into the mid-frame of the Pixel 7 for a more cohesive look and feel, although visually that will be up to you. It's all taste-based. The camera section should though be less prone to smudges and smears, as only the dual lens setup itself, rather than the entire camera bar, is exposed or covered in glass. Google has also moved down those right-sided volume and power buttons to accommodate the changes here. This makes the only hardware inputs actually easier to reach without needing to shift your grip, and is likely owed to that camera bar shifting downward as I mentioned. You might care about the weight changes though here, as the Pixel 7 is 10 grams lighter at 197 grams versus the 207 gram Pixel 6. That's quite a big difference when you start to add things up and add a case to either of these devices. In terms of specifications though, you'd be pretty hard pressed to spot any major alterations. The new Tensor G2 processor is not really a massive leap in overall power available under the hood, but there are some supposed efficiency gains and better machine learning processing times with this newer version. Both phones are still smooth when running the latest version of Android, which is Android 13 as you may know. RAM and storage configurations are also identical across both of these devices, and there's still no 512GB storage tier available for this entry level in the series for storing things like on-device photos, video, music and other files. That might be a problem as there is no actual support for internal storage expansion with micro SD card slots on either phone. So we would say if you do store a lot of things, go for the biggest option you can possibly afford. One of the biggest changes from the Pixel 6 to the Pixel 7 though is actually in the colour selections available. Google has dropped the bright and playful colours with the newer series. Instead, it's muted but somewhat refined tones this time around that fit better with the Pixel 7 Pro. Out go the kind of coral and sort of seafoam, which were two of the best that we've seen so far, but we do get a really nice lemongrass, which is basically yellow and gold option in return for that. Snow and Obsidian make up the rest of the lineup, which is just a basic white and silver and black and pewter option respectively. Of course, there's the stormy black version of the Pixel 6 if you want something a bit more muted on last year's Model 2. When you start looking at the software, despite the newer generation Tensor processor, we have to say the daily performance is very close on the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7. Of course, you will notice though that the G2 chip does offer some added functionality such as the ability to utilize face unlock, plus there is a few other features that do take advantage of these supposed performance gains. The Pixel 7 though now runs better than it ever did at launch thanks to the numerous bug fixes and updates and tuning that have been found in updates pre and post Android 13. For all intents and purposes, Android 13 at its core is identical on this Duo though. Material U and dynamic colour are still very much core components, with little tweaks helping aid your daily usage and just making it an overall big upgrade in terms of usability and accessibility over Android 12 without actually changing things all too drastically. Some alterations have also been made to the new model to accommodate extra features, with the new face unlock functionality being a pretty prime difference between these two. As we mentioned, performance gains with Tensor G2 always, or at least seem to be minimal, with slick performance across both of the Duo, but this is a big improvement for what was a buggy rollout and release of Android 12, which shipped with the Pixel 6 series. There doesn't seem to be anywhere near as many issues with the Pixel 7 compared to the Pixel 6 releases last year. We will say though that just like on the Pro models, gaming remains one of the weaker areas of the Tensor and Tensor G2 processors. Excess heat and frame drops are definitely more prominent on the Pixel 6 and by extension the Pixel 7 compared to other flagship phones, but you will still be able to play the biggest and best games at respectable fidelity and graphic levels. That said, the experience is still a few steps behind the devices with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, the 8 Plus Gen 1 and even some higher end MediaTek chips. As we mentioned, Face Unlock on Pixel 7 is also now available alongside an improved in-display fingerprint scanner. Separately, the changes are important. Together though, they make for a remarkably improved experience when getting into your device. The hands-free biometric face unlock though is made possible thanks to the use of a higher resolution 11 megapixel selfie camera on the Pixel 7, because the Pixel 6 has a lower resolution 8 megapixel camera. So that means if Google ever does backport the function, it's not likely to come to this entry-level 2021 device and probably will only come to the Pixel 6 Pro if at all. Other new features that Pixel 7 owners will get access to that are not yet available on the Pixel 6 and may not come to all of those is features like face unblur, and this is just a machine learning filter that improves the quality of the images taken with your camera, or even those photos or older photos in your Google Photos library itself. In December, you'll also get access to the Google One VPN for added network security. That is usually put behind a paid tier on the Google One storage, 2TB storage plan. A final feature missing on the Pixel 6 that we think you need to know about is the new cough and snore detection, which is found within the digital wellbeing settings. And this offers cough and snore detection while you're sleeping, as long as you have your phone by your bedside, meaning you just don't need to wear a fitness wearable or even something like the Pixel Watch. Google is though offering fairly decent support windows for the Pixel series nowadays, but because the Pixel 6 launched with Android 12 and has since been updated to Android 13, it'll get 2 further major OS builds up to and including Android 15. The Pixel 7 has of course launched with Android 13 pre-installed, so it is eligible up to and including Android 16, of course some point in its own lifespan. The full support window for the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 7 does remain at 5 years, but with security patches in those final 2 years of existence. Support will cease for the Pixel 6 in October 2026, while the Pixel 7, the newer phone, by a year, will be supported up to October 2027. Another notable, not directly tied though to the software, is the usage of a newer Exynos 5300 modem in the Pixel 7 models. Where the Pixel 6 can sometimes struggle with connectivity and networking, we found that the Pixel 7 has far steadier connections, more stable connections in all kinds of places, and it's great because you don't lose much connectivity. There's no call drops, no data drops. Definitely was something that a lot of people out there, and you may have experienced with the Pixel 6 series. It doesn't appear to be a problem with the Pixel 7 and by extension the Pixel 7 Pro this year. One of the few downgrades to the Pixel 7 over the Pixel 6 though is in the total battery capacity available. The internal cell is almost 10% smaller this year, down from 4,355 mAh versus 4,614 on the Pixel 6. That said, Tensor G2 is supposed to offer 20% efficiency gains, which is often hard to accurately determine. In our own experience, we have to say the battery life on the Pixel 6 was better at launch, but only marginally so in our day-to-day testing. The Pixel 7 is still an all-day phone that you could potentially get 2 days out of with moderate to light usage. And of course, on top of that, it can really withstand high usage without becoming massively problematic. As the Pixel 6 is aging itself now a year old, it might not offer the same longevity, but is still a decent smartphone in terms of its overall battery length. Unfortunately though, we have to say, or I have to give this caveat, that lifespan is a subjective metric to measure and hard to judge everyone at least at the same time. Your experience or your mileage may vary, so it's important to note that what we say might not be how you experience things, and that goes for every device that anybody reviews on the internet. Google has also opted to keep charging speeds the same this year again. The Pixel 7 series is therefore still rated at 30 watts, but it caps out at 21 watts on both of these devices. And because the Pixel 6 has a larger battery, it does mean that it will take longer to charge from 0 to 100%, but neither phone offers particularly fast top-up speeds. It'll take an hour or an hour and a half for you to go from 0 to 100% in most cases with either the Pixel Stand or a wired 21/30 watt charger brick. When we're looking at the cameras, it's worth noting that the rear camera system has actually not changed on the Pixel 7 this time around, but there are some changes that you'll want to be aware of. Google has of course stuck with that 50 megapixel Samsung GN1 sensor, which is paired with a 12 megapixel Sony IMX386 ultra wide angle lens. At the front though, to accommodate that face unlock, as we noted earlier, the selfie sensor is now rated at 11 megapixels on the Pixel 7 versus the 8 megapixel sensor used on the Pixel 6 and a lot of pixels before that. It offers a slightly wider field of view, and the quality increase is not massive, but that means it's a definite bump up. This is the only major hardware difference in the two camera systems available. However, Google has made some changes to the software processing capabilities of the Pixel 7 camera system, and this is going to be important to camera nerds out there. Enhanced Super Res Zoom means that while there is no dedicated telephoto zoom lens, disappointingly, machine learning backed digital cropping allows for almost lossless 2x digital crops into images when using the zoom capabilities. On top of that, 8 times digital zoom is now possible, which is a jump up from the 7 times found on the Pixel 6. But overall, the pictures are fairly comparable, even if the Pixel 7 is a slight step up. Other notable functionality only available on the Pixel 7 now also includes the new cinematic blur mode at 1080p 24fps, 4K UHD 60fps recording on all lenses, and the ability to switch between the rear lenses while recording at that frame rate. There's also 10-bit HDR10 video recording for the first time on a Pixel. There's Realtone 2.0 for improved skin tone exposure, plus the accessibility guided frame feature, which lets you take selfies using the accessibility talkback option. All of the Pixel 6 camera functions or functionality is also baked directly into the Google Camera app on the Pixel 7 Series 2, meaning it is a substantial leap in terms of features available at your fingertips on the new device. Camera processing times also appear to be improved thanks to Tensor G2. Things seem to process independently or quickly rather than taking a second or so to appear, but that isn't a major deal all the same. So with all of that information on board, you're probably wondering, is the newer model a big enough upgrade to make the change? Well, rather than a jump or leap, the Pixel 6 to the Pixel 7 is more of a hop, at least in our regard. That said, there are some important changes that make what we considered one of the best sub $600 smartphones of last year and even better by this time around. Google has just listened to feedback and worked on those problem areas, and it does mean that the late 2022 Pixel cohort makes good on previous promises of a true flagship level experience in all areas. Like the Pixel 6, the Pixel 7 is not the outright best smartphone you can go out and buy, but within its price bracket, there are not really many smartphones providing this level of polish, fit, and finish. Thanks to a high volume of bug fixes, updates, and that full Android 13 OTA update though, the Pixel 6 itself is now better than it was at launch, and that's not something many smartphones out there can even admit. If you have encountered problems with the fingerprint scanner on that device though, and connectivity specifically, then we think the Pixel 7 could be a solid upgrade, but not an essential one, despite being an overall better handset. With all of that said though, I want to hear from you. Are you actually looking at switching out your Pixel 6 if you have one for the Pixel 7? Let me know down in the comment sections below. I'm always interested to hear how people go about that upgrade path. It's not something we would suggest ordinarily, but there are some lingering problems that people would be frustrated by. After all though, this is Damien with 9to5Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.